Well, on Friday, the Supreme Court issued one of its most asinine rulings ever. I don't like it one bit. It attempts to tear apart, let me stress that word, attempts, to tear apart one of the fundamental principles of life. It attempts to redefine something that has existed for thousands, I want to say it again, thousands of years. And that's marriage. It's just more of the same, though. If you look back in our lifetime, or the last half of my lifetime, or the last third of my lifetime, though, you see things that are changing. Young people, listen to this message today, please. It's a sign of the times. I call it the Idiocracy Conspiracy. The Idiocracy Conspiracy. Now, I stuck my head in there and talked to trustees a little bit this morning. Told them, well, I sent the message, the title out to you. I watch too much TV. But there is a movie, if you've ever seen it, it's called Idiocracy. It's R-rated, but it is funny. You know, if you watch the uncut version of it or whatever, it's not terrible, but it's a typical R-rated movie. It's not, it's R-rated. But the premise of the whole thing, the Army's doing an experiment. They put this guy and girl and Sloop Owens and Maya Rudolph. Anyway, they put them in suspended animation. It's supposed to be for a year. Well, the experiment goes wrong, and they wake up 500 years later. So he wakes up walking around, and it's sort of like, okay, now I know you, Back to the Future 2, when Marty goes back and the times have changed because what's his name? It had the book and won all the bets and the whole world's crazy. Well, it's the same thing, except that this guy goes back and the whole world has been dumbed down. And the reason being is a company is pushing this Gatorade kind of drink called Brondo. Everybody drinks Brondo and they irrigate the crops with Brondo, and that's the whole thing. But everybody is stupid. And he is determined to be the smartest guy in the world because he can pass, a very simple IQ test. That's the reason the movie's called Idiocracy. You can't help but compare it to our society a little bit. It is part of the dumbing down. Things once considered idiotic are made out to be okay. And if you don't agree, you are labeled discriminatory and hateful. And traditional Christianity is bad. You catch the buzzwords. The Bible is no longer the ultimate authority. And it needs to be reinterpreted. The Idiocracy Conspiracy attempts to say that a certain sin is no longer sin. I may speak on that certain sin next Sunday specifically. I've been shying away from it. This may be, I don't know. I'll see how the Lord leads me. What's next? What's next? The Idiocracy Conspiracy, and it is a conspiracy, is demonic. Now, it doesn't mean the people that are caught up in the euphoria of this are demonic. They're being duped. Please hear me. I'm not saying the people are demonic. But the undercurrent, the underlinings of this is demonic. It's anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, it's even anti-Muslim. Do you think Islam or Judaism is going to tolerate this kind of stuff from a religious perspective? No. Is Christianity going to? Some are, some aren't. That's coming next year. The Idiocracy Conspiracy is really the spirit of Antichrist at work in this world. That's what it is. That's what it is. I didn't give the scripture to Dwayne to put up. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit and pull a little bit out. Some people say I'm taking it out of context, but 1 John 4:3 tells us, says some other things, says, the spirit of Antichrist is here and at work in the world. It says it. When John wrote 1 John, way back when, he said the spirit of Antichrist is here. It was there back then. It is here now. Go back into the Old Testament, the book of Daniel. It says this spirit of Antichrist, he doesn't use those exact words, but he says, will attempt to wear down the saints and to make alterations in time and in law. Now that's a direct quote from Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. Will attempt to wear down the saints and to make alterations, to alter time and law, to alter existing thinking. It gets me down. But I'm not going to let it keep me down. I'm not going to do it. I slept terribly, which is, don't take much for that to happen to me. I slept terribly Friday night. I said, my goodness, I have to address, if I'm any kind of preacher, I have to address this issue. Number one, y'all will run me out and say, Blaine, why ain't you speaking to this? And y'all have every right to. It's something that's put in your face, you must address it. I researched and looked and thought and prayed and all this kind of stuff. And I started feeling nauseous. And that's not like me. I'm never, unless I eat some bad food, I'm never nauseous. So, I mean, I was like, we're going to kind of, so what is it? It was making me sick. It was making me sick. Because I'm thinking through the whole ramifications of this. See, there's a, and I may talk more about it next week, because, you know, I'm thinking through all these ramifications from our little church, from the denomination, from the whole church at large, and all this kind of stuff. It's dividing the church. It's going probably to divide. It has already divided some denominations, and it may divide our denomination. It could. It's dividing Christianity. Maybe it needs to be divided.
Better to leave it a Christian than to leave
That's
it
right.
going.
That's right. That's right. Amen. But I'm not going to let me keep it down. Keep me down. I'm ready to fight if needed. It takes a lot to get me riled up. But to get me riled up, I won't back down. I'm drawing a line in the sand, the dirt, the grass, the pavement, or wherever I need to draw it. Wherever. A few people have asked me this a couple of times, and I will not marry same-sex couples. I will not do it. Because, young people, I want you to hear this. It is contrary to biblical principles. It's contrary to traditional and cultural mores that have existed since the beginning of time, since the time of Adam and Eve. And all of a sudden, 5 judges that have been appointed by this president, not all of them, some of them, say, well, this is the way it's going to be. It's not right. Will you stand with me? And I know you will. I asked the question. Will you stand with me against this assault on our traditional beliefs?
Yes.
I know you will. You know, marriage in the Bible is between a man and a woman. I went back and I used Bible Gateway. I put in marriage. I read every scripture. Other than Christ marrying the church, maybe a couple of other instances, it's always a man and a woman. I put in marriage. Same thing. Same thing. There's nothing that I can find. Help me find, look, help me if there's an instance of same-sex marriage in the Bible. Heterosexual marriage has been part of the Judeo-Christian tradition for centuries. John Wesley said, when there's a question of this nature, of this type, Wesley sort of had a formula that he used to come to an answer. Now, later on, and I think 400 years later, some theologian called it the Wesleyan quadrilateral because it has 4 things. Wesley said, when you're faced with an issue like this, you must consider these 4 things. First and foremost and primary consideration is Scripture. What does Scripture say about it? It trumps the next 3 I'm going to tell you what the Scripture say about it. That's the first thing. The next thing, he said, traditionally, how has it been done? What have we done? What's our thoughts, doctrines? You have to look at tradition. He also says experience, personal experience. And last but not least, common sense. That's sort of the hierarchy that he used. Same-sex marriage is contrary to all of these. It's not part of God's plan. You know, and this has caused a lot of soul searching, and maybe needed on my part, and it probably should on all of our part. I have nothing against the people that want to marry someone of the same sex. I have, in some ways, I understand their desire. Now, hear me good on that. And I hope in some ways I can understand the argument. From a purely logical perspective, I can sort of see them. I tell you, they're doing a good job of presenting the argument and framing it. They are. They use words like discriminatory, hateful, and then love. You know, we should be able to love all too, you know, and all this kind of stuff to put you in a quandary. I have nothing against those people. I feel sorry for them because they are trying to justify something that is morally wrong. And trying to make me and you agree that it's normal. And to feel bad if we disagree. That is the goal of the Idiocracy Conspiracy. We must stand firm against it. You know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you wouldn't even have heard of this. Yeah, and people that are that way and want to believe that way, we shouldn't be going up and beating up on them and making them feel less of this or that and the other and what have you. I mean, that's not right either. But don't sit there in my face and tell me that I'm wrong to stand on centuries-old traditions and based on Scripture. And tell me that I'm hateful and discriminating against if I disagree with it, if we disagree with it. You know, I think we've reached a point of no return. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't put the toothpaste back into the tube. It's out. It's here. We're here and we're the word they use. And there seems to be no middle ground in sight. Man, I trying to finish this on an up note and all this kind of stuff. I'm just telling you the way I see it. Please tell me if you disagree with something. Somebody pointed out something to me week before last messages. I made a mistake. I said something. And the person pointed out, I said, yeah, you know, you're correct. You know, I did not think about that. If you see something, if you feel like I'm saying wrong, please let me know. I need to know that. I try to think all this through, but I'm not going to say. I think I'm on pretty firm ground with this right here, though. It is the world we live in. The only thing we can do is pray and vote. Pray and vote. One party seems to be in favor. One seems to be against. That's going to make a whole interesting next year, this year, and the next year. Denominations are, like the Methodists, are already, you know, taking sides. Our sides are already taken. You know, and not let it distract us. It's a distraction. I have been distracted. It is a distraction. It is not to be a distraction. I'm not going to let, from maybe after next Sunday, or maybe sooner, I'm not going to let it be a distraction. Because what are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be doing? Are we supposed to be worrying about this? And ain't a whole lot we can do. We're not supposed to be worried about this. What are we supposed to be doing? Evangelism? We're supposed to be spreading the gospel. We're supposed to be spreading the gospel of the forgiveness of Jesus Christ to all sinners. To all sinners. All sinners. All sins. God forgives all sins through Jesus Christ. That is the message we're to be spreading. And if somebody comes in with contrary thinking, we are supposed to welcome and love and minister. That's what it says. I will give you an opportunity to say.
I just wanted to say that the vision that you're talking about in the church, I think, is less of like ministering towards the homosexuality and saying that it's okay, because it's obviously not. But I think that accepting what those people are going through and giving them basic human rights is something that they deserve, and they should be welcome anywhere and everywhere. And I think that being joined with their partner is a human right. So, and I also feel like that's something like that you don't want to join same-sex couples. I think is totally fine, because I can understand why you don't want to do that. But I think rather than rebuking those people, that we should give them even more of that.
Exactly. That's what I want to close at. And hopefully that comes out. Now I know a lot of frustration, anger, I admit, is in this. But ultimately, you are correct. And hopefully you know me well enough to know that I would do that. Angela had a first cousin. It's homosexual. Died of AIDS 20 years ago. I remember him, knew him, hung out with him. It is not a normal lifestyle. It's not a correct lifestyle. But those people are worthy of God's love and forgiveness. And if they walk, they are welcome here. All sinners are welcome here. You know, this applies, the scripture applies to both sides, I guess. Colossians 2:8 says, "See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, according to the traditions of men, according to the elementary principles of this world, but rather according to Christ." Don't be held captive by the Idiocracy Conspiracy. It is an undercurrent in our society. It puts us in a quandary by the church. God's love is available to all. If someone walked in here and said, "I'm a serial adulterer, and I think it's okay," What am I going to say? I'm going to marry this woman, but I can tell you right now, we've agreed to have an open marriage. I'm going to marry you. What would I say? Put yourself in my position. Put yourself in a biblical position. What am I going to say? I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't do that.